Okay, my little quality control army. Uh, we need to have a personal discussion on good laboratory practices, right? So, up to this point, you've looked at a couple of documents and you've read some horrible stories about poor little lab rats, and now we need to have a one on one discussion about good laboratory practices and maybe some things to look out for on the upcoming test. So, one of the very first things, and you know as good as well as I do, that I'm going to ask you, what does GLP stand for? And you need to put in good laboratory practices, right? You know that question is coming around. You know it's going to be a test question. So, my advice is to make sure you at least know what the acronym stands for. GLP, good laboratory practices. So we need to talk a little bit, maybe in more detail, about what GLP is all about. So one of the very first things that I need to make you understand is that these good laboratory practices, they are federal regulations. All right. So that means the feds can come to your door and knock on it and say, hey, we're here to look at your GLPs that you have in place. And hopefully, you do have GLPs that are in place. If not, somebody is going to have a very bad day at work for that day because you're probably going to be in violations of quite a bit of stuff. All right, so the federal regulations that we're talking about, what really do we have to focus on? Well, first off, the FDA does have a role in GLPs. And the FDA, of course, stands for Food and Drug Administration. And what you'll find here is that in 21 CFR Part 58, that's where the GLPs are basically going to be found. So again, these are regulations. They're basically the government's way of telling these laboratories what they should be doing and maybe what they can get by with in a normal run-of-the-mill laboratory every day. So the CFR stands for the Code of Federal Regulations. Code of the Federal Regulations. And like I said before, these are federal regulations. So in the Code of Federal Regulations, the FDA is going to outline basically some GLPs that laboratories should follow. So the FDA, which is one of the largest regulatory bodies out there, if you're in the Food and Drug Agency, of course, that's the one that you answer to. They're going to have control of what goes on in a lab. The same thing is going to happen to the EPA. And the EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency. And in the EPA, well, they don't really go by the FDA standards. They might maybe a little more lenient on some things. Maybe they're looking for something else than the FDA is looking for because this is food and drug and this is environmental. So at its heart are two different really kind of testing facilities that you might see out there in the field. All right, well, in the CFR, so FIFA in 40 CFR Part 160. And for TSCA, we're looking at 40 CFR Part 792. What are some of these acronyms? We'll get to those maybe a little bit later on, maybe a little later on in the course. But again, we're still looking for the Code of Federal Regulations. So even though this is the EPA, maybe GLP standards, you're still going to find them in the same Code of Federal Regulations. But this time, we're looking at 40 Part 160. And up here for FDA, we're looking at 21 Part 58. So that's where they're going to be found. And in the Blackboard link that you're going to have, you can actually visit these electronically on the website, and you can go through and scroll through the regulations. I don't want you to read everything. I don't want you to go through and maybe memorize crap because that's not what this course is all about. What I do want you to do, though, is familiarize yourself with it. So make sure that you click on the link in the Blackboard site. Make sure that you do that at least. And make sure that you visit those websites that I will post and just kind of get yourself acquainted with the website and its design. And maybe go specifically to some of these links and click on them and just briefly skim over them. I don't want you to memorize it. I don't want you to read it in detail, but I do want you to become familiar with it. And that's what we need to be doing in the whole course, right? All right, so good lab practices are federal regulations. They are part of the FDA and they're a part of the EPA. And these are some things that we have to take very seriously, right? Okay, so a little bit of history and a little bit of timeline for you people. 1970, the FDA will come around and they will propose GLP standards for the first time. But it took 1970 in order for us to do this. So some people are scratching their heads and they're probably saying, well, why did it take that long? I don't understand. And we'll get to some of those stories if you don't maybe know the answer to some of those yet. So we'll eventually get there. But in time, we'll talk about why all of these things are beginning to happen. Finally, 8 years later, in 1978, those regulations are finally published. Okay, so the FDA proposes maybe we need to step in and start taking a look at these laboratories and wondering what they're doing and what they're not doing and how they're reporting. And then in 78, finally, these things were published for laboratories to go and reference to and to begin to follow. 1980, a different decade, right? Some of us were born in the 1980s and maybe prior. But 1980 was a good decade for those people that were born in the 1980s. Life was simple back in the day. That brought us movies like E.T. and The Goonies. So it couldn't have gotten better. But in 1982, we get a GLP that's published. And this includes a GLP that surfaces and spans over 30 countries. So we finally get everyone else on board and we kind of tell them these are the standards that we would like laboratories to follow. And would you like to join us in the United States? And maybe we can work out agreements across the board to make these slightly universal. And that's what you begin to see happen here. Countries begin to work together and they begin to make these standards and they begin to make these regulations. So the major players here, of course, was the United States. We also have the UK and we also have Japan to come in and kind of work together and scratch their heads and figure out the best way possible to come up with some of these GLP standards. Finally, in 1983, this was also in the 80s, we get the EPA regulations published. So they are a little bit later on. Food and drug, of course, was a priority because people are taking that. Well, EPA follows a little bit later just because they're not consumer products, but they're still important because these are herbicides and pesticides and things that we're testing for that might be on your food that you will eventually eat. Finally, in 1986, a little bit later on, we go back to the FDA, and the FDA is going to revise their GLP regulations that they have put into place. And we get this thing called the European Union. And the European Union is going to take all the European countries, basically, and they're going to do what the UK and Japan did as well. They're going to go through and they're going to lay out their regulations and they're going to kind of make it match with everybody else. So now a bigger part of the world is kind of included in these federal regulations. 1989, 9 years after the EPA, or 6 years after the EPA has published their regulations, the EPA is going to go through and revise a little bit of what they did too. The moral of the story here is that nothing's ever perfect, And when these regulations get implemented, there's room for improvement. And that's what the FDA did because they published theirs in basically 1978. And then 10 years, give or take a little bit, they come around and they revise it. And then the EPA will print theirs in 83. And then 6 years or so later, they're going to come around and they're going to revise it. Well, if the EPA and the FDA are revising their regulations, you constantly know that these things are now going to be updated. And that's the moral of the story that I want you to take home. These are never really set in stone. There's a couple of basic ones that are always going to be present. However, there's always room for improvement. So in the 1990s, you're going to see basically Canada becoming involved, and they're going to revise some of their GLPs, and they're going to play a part of the process. So here I'm going to put Canada. And then in the 2000s, you're going to basically see consolidation that begins to happen. You're going to see more revisions that begin to happen. But you're seeing a bigger part of the world getting involved. Step by step by step, revision after revision, you're seeing a bigger part of the actual world getting involved in the GLPs that these laboratories should follow. Okay? All right. So in the next video, we'll pick up from this topic and we'll pick up from this idea. And this idea now is that GLP is a massive concept. It's a massive idea that these laboratories should follow in order to make sure that they are producing or testing a quality product. All right. So in the next video, we'll pick up from here, and I'll see you maybe in a few minutes.